engage not only members of the National Assembly and other statutory bodies like INEC, civil society groups, but Nigerians are interested in the way and manner we do our activities here. Nigerians definitely have interest in the constitutional review that the National Assembly will back upon. There are several issues that Nigerians feel very strongly about. The Constitutional Review Committee is supposed to be a platform where such issues could be brought and where those who are interested should ensure that they make every possible effort, including presentations, for their views to be considered. We as a National Assembly, particularly the Senate, we want to have a very stable country. We want to have a country that gives every citizen the opportunity to actualize his or her dream. We want to have a security that is enhanced and an economy that works for everyone. Stability of the polity is important. We have to have a country before we run for elections or indeed undertake any activity.
Economy and politics. I think they said there's a mix. Or is it a thin line between both? It's usually blurred. I don't know. Well, Mark, you've got the next one. Go ahead, please.
It's certainly not blood, darling. It's certainly not blood. I mean, $30 a barrel. But we're hoping that we'll certainly get government officials to, calm the alarm that, a lot of people might feel as a result of this. It will also be interesting to get the take of the governors on how they see this. Do they think this is spelling doom for their own budgets as well? But I know this is certainly a story we'll stay on as we go on. But yes, you've heard of the political economy, haven't you? So there's definitely, in fact, there's absolutely no line blurring the two of them. They're working hand in hand. And as a result, we're talking about constitutional amendment this morning because remember, you heard just there the Senate President saying that we have to stabilize the country. And part of stabilizing the country is not just through the laws, it's also through the economy, it's also through security and a number of other things that a country needs to be a country first before politicians can do whatever it is that they need to do. We have this morning with us Honorable Tajuddin Yusuf, who is the former chairman House Committee on Capital Market. He's also a member of the People's Democratic Party. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily this morning.
Good morning, Mark.
It's been quite a while.
It's necessary to take a break at times, sit back and listen and hear what people will say.
It will be interesting to know what you have heard people saying in the times that you have been away, but it is certainly good to see you again. Welcome back.
Thank you.
We're also expecting this morning Honorable Saidu Musa Abdul, who is the Vice Chairman House Committee on Finance and a member of the All Progressives Congress, but we heard this morning that he pulled out of the conversation. We're talking about constitutional amendment. It would seem that somehow the House of Representatives has managed to start it on a very controversial note by asking for immunity for members of, presiding members of the National Assembly. And people are wondering, is this what the constitutional amendment this time around is going to be about, or is it really about the Nigerian people?
Who says the House of Representatives is a proposal by some individuals, members,
within the House,
until it becomes a House adopted bill. It's not the House of Representatives. I don't share such opinion. And one thing about lawmaking is that it gives you to come from any perspective. It gives you opportunity to air whatever view you want to hear. But their process is going to, the House is just constituting the Constitutional Amendment Committee that will be for 2 years. I mean, is a 4 years ritual that is done every 4 years to give opportunity for those who have things they want to ventilate about how we are being governed, about the rules that govern us. Unfortunately, I won't say we've been able to really hit the nail on the head, because without sounding critical, 2013, 2014, APC was on the top of the roof talking about restructuring. You're in power now. I think it should be the number one issue of constitutional amendment. So it just shows that of a truth from both sides of the divide. You are yet to have a lot of genuine, committed men who really put Nigeria first. So, but I pray that this new process, and with Nigerians need to show interest. We need to show interest, bring to bear our desire to see change. We must mount pressure on our elected representatives to do the right thing. So, as the committee begins to work, we expect memoranda from individuals and constitutional lawyers who have the privilege of being a lawmaker. Does not make you a law or an expert in lawmaking. Constitutional lawyers can come in and come with opinions, ventilate such opinions, and let the public opinion be carried to it. Look at other climb, what is being done there. Let's look at Ghana here. How is Ghana getting it right?
I'm glad you say that this has become a 4-year ritual. In other words, every assembly sets up its own constitutional amendment committee. And so, as a result, some people have become cynical about the process. What is it going to achieve? Because you said that we haven't quite hit the nail on the head. And it's not the first time that Nigerians have heard about a constitutional amendment committee. Year after year, or assembly after assembly, they have put forward what they think the country needs to change structurally for us to be able to make significant progress. But there's some people who also say that they don't think that the kind of changes, maybe it's as a result of what they have seen over the years, that the kind of changes we need to make, they don't think that the National Assembly has the wherewithal to be able to make those changes. Would you agree with those people?
I will disagree to some extent. I'm aware that in 6, 7, and 8 assembly made certain significant effort that were thwarted by the state assemblies. So,
for instance,
even the local government autonomy until now, in 7th assembly it failed. The state assembly autonomy was turned down by state assemblies. That should be on first line charge. They turned it down. It didn't scale through. That we are prepared, we are okay to be tied to our governor's appendage. Don't help us. We don't need such help.
Yeah, even the state houses of assembly.
Yes.
Yeah.
They turned yes. What I'm trying to say is that we can't just say, no, nothing will be done. We have done take some steps. So I'm saying that we are not taking the kind of step that I would have loved us to have taken. Maybe I'm having unrealistic expectation. Maybe I'm expecting us to jump when we ought to be crawling. But I feel we are still crawling. But I do not want us to situate this blame alone at the National Assembly. We are a product of the society. The rate of turnover every year is about 70%. Every assembly you find over 70% voted out. New set comes in. So we are a reflection of what the society is. So when people make it look as if National Assembly are just a set of people that came from moon and they're different from what? No. So what are we doing as a people to genuinely see to it that I'm talking about restructuring until Southwest, now Southeast are taking cue. Come out with Ametekun and what have you. By now we should know that there's no federal system anywhere in the world without such security architecture to tackle internal and local issues. You know TJ, you know Paul, you know where he lives. There should be somebody in that vicinity who have the power and the authority of government to say, TJ, you did so strictly wrong. How will you build somebody from about 300 kilometers away from my place who does not do dynamics and the architecture of my place?
Now you are coming to the nitty-gritty.
Yeah.
What a number of Nigerians have been looking to see in this constitutional amendment. That's why I asked, whether or not the House of Representatives, you said, no, it's not the House, it's some individuals. But the very fact that the House has considered such a bill, people have asked whether or not it is going to be getting priorities right in terms of setting the agenda for what it intends to achieve with constitutional amendment when it considered that bill about immunity for presiding officers.
The bill is not yet considered. It went to the first, second reading. It will be laid before the Constitutional Amendment Committee. Public hearing will be held on it. It's a process.
But it has passed second reading.
Yes.
It wasn't quashed at second reading. It passed.
You should not. It doesn't mean you should quash every law at second reading. It should go to public scrutiny. Look at the merit and demerit of it. Like I said, I do not share that. That does not mean that people do not share such opinion. So we'll now see justification where they are bringing in. And what I'm trying to say, process of lawmaking is a constitutional amendment. This is not just a bill. It's a constitutional amendment. It will go through even House assemblies. You go through a lot. So we cannot say Uhuru for because he had gone through second reading. Second reading is basically discussing general principle of a bill to see if it is worth giving to committee to look at. That's what has happened. And I want to be convinced. I want to state categorically, I'm convinced that it's not possible for the House and the National Assembly to embark on constitutional amendment without the desire to effect some fundamental change. What is required now is, will the National Assembly have the will, the political will to go through? Yes, I believe we will have the will this time. But will the State Assembly have the will? The presidency is the whole gamut of, look at the Electoral Act 28 Assembly passed. 2019 election was the first election since 1999 without an amendment to Electoral Act. What used to happen is that after an election, we amend the Electoral Act to see the loopholes, the lacunas, the shortfall, the areas we feel we need to improve on. But 2019, we went to the election without amendment because there was a commitment, a deliberate commitment not to make sure it does not scale through. Some people were saying that the presidency said it's close to election, it's not good to change the law, close to election. That bill, that amendment was done a year plus before election. Close to 2 years, it was deliberately delayed. And at every point in time it raised concern, the National Assembly bent backward to amend that section to suit what you wanted. It wait for another 2 or 3 months, then finally, January, we say it's too close to election to amend.
But the National Assembly is not taking any chances this time around. They started early.
That's deliberate. The idea is to, let's finish by 2021. And now put time. And fortunately for us, the present president is not seeking election again by the constitution. We feel he should not be pressured by partisan politics when he's the one running. He should be partisan, he should be involved in politics, but he's not the one running. We believe, we assume that he will be statesman enough to sign, because by my understanding, our election has never been this cantankerous. The closer we had to this was maybe 2003 election. I could state starting Oshun and what have you, and the judiciary reversed those decisions. But unfortunately, this time around, he also can get it by any means. You get it through to the judiciary too. So I want to believe that the constitutional amendment that we're embarking on now will yield some results only if the public too, and players like you, stakeholders like you, deliberately put it on the burner. Because I don't know how to use something language, but we have short memory in Nigeria. People who something just happened will forget what is more important. Until we get certain things right in our constitution, not just getting them right, having the wherewithal to make sure that they are implemented. Because some people still say that a lot of states are not yet operating the first line charge for local governments. That the joint accounting state are still in operation.
Your joint accounts are still in operation. The NFIU came out recently to try and deal with that, and you saw the resistance from the governors. I think what was also in contention then was also the autonomy for state houses of assembly, which eventually some state houses of assembly eventually stood their ground and they were able to pass, even though they had rejected it in the past. Right now that we're looking at it, for you as a lawmaker, what would you say are the priority areas for constitutional amendment? A lot of people would say security. Would you agree with them?
Yeah, I agree with them. But I think what is more important to me is security is very important, but what's more important to me is that how do we agree to live together? Fundamentally, our constitution, as it is, has its foundation in the military mind, who is conceived. I'm in sync with those who think that we should rejig the entire. There was an attempt by the Jonathan administration to do a national conference that was not popular with some people. But I was thinking that some of the resolution of that national conference will now be brought to the National Assembly by the executive for us to, first of all, are we operating a regional government? Are we agreeing to the fact that there are 6 regions in Nigeria? 2, can we now begin to build confidence by saying that, hey, I had my political teeth as a young boy in the student movement, NANS. The NANS had a constitution that rotate its presidency among 4 zones in Nigeria. We have Zone A, Zone B, Zone D, Zone C, Zone D. There are schools under these zones. You know that the presidency of NANS will go to this zone after this time. It started in 1980. NANS was that foresight, had that such foresight in 1980, realizing that with the kind of with the configuration of opinions and ethnicity we have in Nigeria, there should be something that may give every segment of the society some sense of it will be our turn.
Belonging.
Yeah, we might say, okay, with time, democracy is not even cast in whatever in America or British does. It is what you feel will suit your people. And one of the major challenges we have as a people is that mistrust.
So bigger than security for you is nation building.
Yes, is the sense of oneness. Security becomes an issue when I feel threatened, I'm not comfortable. I feel you are marginalizing me. I feel that in this commonwealth, I'm not at table with you. I'll quote one of the American great activist Malcolm X. Say, being at table with you, dining, does not make I'm the one dining. You are the one dining. I watch you eat. That we are the table in Nigeria. You hold my hand while you are eating. I will say we are dining. It's one Nigeria. How can it be one Nigeria? There must be deliberate effort. And I still look at how NANS came about with that. I mean, I give kudos to people like Chris Abashi and co, who thought of that at 1980. So there must people might throw it to the, oh no, we have gone beyond that. It's a lie from pit of hell. We are not gone beyond that. Even in National Assembly, we're all struggling to make sure we dragged into our area and what have you. Recently, about 2 or 3 days ago, the River State governor was complaining about the lack of federal presence in his state. So what we say is that as a people, we must first of all agree that this is the way we want to be governed. What you're saying as citizen security is a fallout of lack of cohesion, lack of a consensus as a people that this is how we want to be. So if I do this, maybe they will understand and realize they need to listen to me. It becomes a profiteering process.
From what I gather, it would seem that you're also suggesting that we have a rotational presidency.
Yes.
You are. So that will be one of the suggestions you
Yeah, it should be entrenched in the Constitution.
In the Constitution.
You could say, okay, maybe if later in 20, 30, 40 years, if we are convinced that the issue of mistrust is gone, we can return back to what we have now. But for now, we will be deceiving ourselves if we think we can go on this way.
Would that alone be enough to...
It's part of it, it's not alone.
To instill confidence
to instill confidence. The Constitution is good, but we need leaders who genuinely are committed to this nation. So you do not... the Constitution is very good, set parameters, but the character, the content of a man's character, as a leader, will naturally propel people to agree with him or disagree with him. I see your demeanor and I will know if my interest will be protected. Even, see, if you find a good man at the head of our affair for 2 years or 3 years, believe me, nobody will be interested in what I'm talking about again. But for now, since we are not be able to, it has always been that if you are there, it's about I myself Nigeria Limited. I myself alone Nigeria Limited. That's the company you bring on board. So until we get out of that, I think we need something to be like a guide, deliberately, to say, because we've been here.
Will it be a north-south thing or will it be a zonal thing, like the six geopolitical zones?
If it's a north-south thing, yes, you can now say we did these zones too. If you are taking your shot, let's say south. If southwest has taken a shot, it should be southeast next time. Then if you finish from south, you should go to north. There should be something. That's my opinion. It might not be popular with people, but by the privilege of being in National Assembly for like 8 years plus now, I come to see that we need such a thing to help us. I went to National Assembly with such zeal that Nigeria can move the way it is. I will come to realize there's a lie from we cannot move this way.
It is interesting. I hope you've not lost your zeal. That's very important because for some people who have been agitated, That's how they also feel. They've had a lot of zeal, and in some instances, it felt like they've made a breakthrough, and then all of a sudden we're told, oh no, that wasn't quite a breakthrough. We still have to continue the struggle. Yeah. So for a number of people, they view everything right now through the lens of cynicism.
Yeah.
Would you say that the younger ones to whom or for whom the Constitution is being amended every now and again so that we can have a future, would you say that they understand what is going on with the Constitution? And have you seen any interest anywhere? Because they're the ones who are supposed to be pushing this agitation and understanding that this will affect them more than the generation before them.
Unfortunately, I'll say no. The percentage of young people who have proper grasp of issues is dwindling every day. Like I said earlier, privileged to cut my teeth in the student movement. We still have vibrant young guys there. But the value system, the motivation has really changed. So you'll be surprised that some youth somewhere will be interested in the Constitution for profiteering sake. Which area can we mobilize and do conferences and make money? So that will take away the focus on the real issue. I respect and I really appreciate those who are still staying on the table, focusing on the real thing. But if you check before now, look at the June 12 crisis and what have you. The student movement drove that movement. Can we find such a movement again? Look at the 80s, the Alimos Go movement, the subsidy movement. Can we find a national movement of such again? No. Why? Because a lot of distraction has come in. The desire to merchandise our intellectual agitation has become so domineering that you are seen as not being smart if you don't make money from such things. But in those days, if you dare go around without even collecting, we assume you are around that vicinity. That's the end of you politically. You cannot come near that position. So that's why I'm saying we have a long way to go. I wish we can do it with this Constitution and begin to cascade into building national, deliberately indoctrinating our youth by stirring up patriotism in them. Indoctrination is not wrong if it's positive. Deliberately begin to tell them why. Go bring back civics, ethics, value. In school as a subject.
But I can tell you that a lot of parents still have reservations their children getting involved in politics of any type at whatever level they
don't get involved in politics, but let them be taught about civics.
Yes, indeed. I mean, what I'm saying is, if you get to university and say you want to show interest in studying in politics, a lot of parents will remind you that I sent you to school to study, not to get involved in politics. But let's quickly go to Lagos.
That's why I made you leading us.
Let's take a question from my colleague in Lagos, Ayo.
Yes, thank you, Mark. Honorable, I would love to find out, many people would put these issues that you have raised up at the feet of members of the National Assembly. It's been over 20 years since we started this democratic experience. And for us to still be struggling with this same information, many people wonder, so what are members of the National Assembly doing by not trying to fortify the nation, unify the nation, as opposed to everyone representing only their segments of the country?
The National Assembly has done a lot, but we can't do more than what the system as it is in Nigeria permits us. Don't forget that by reason of either correct or wrong information, we are deficient in integrity. There's an assumption that once you're in the National Assembly, you are a thief, anywhere you go to. So by implication, people judge what you say from that perspective. Two, you have so strong leaders, not strong institutions. We don't even have institutions again. If you want to tinker with the Constitution and it's not in sync with the man at the center, he gets nowhere. And unfortunately, we are not there yet that you have the citizenry rise to the occasion to say, this is what we want. Mr. President, you must sign it to law. We are not yet there yet. You'll be surprised that you'll be dropped if you push such things too far. You look behind, you won't find anybody behind you. So I agree that we have some blame as National Assembly, but I'm trying to make us understand that we're a microcosm of the macro society. We're a reflection of who we are as a people. We cannot go outside of what... Let me tell you something. If my constituents deliberately put pressure on me on a particular item every time I go home, if it's a road or what have you, it is natural that anytime I'm going home, it's in my subconscious that I need to meet this demand. But are these things we'll bring to the bottom of 24? So I agree to some extent, yes, we are not done enough. But we are not done enough because of where we operate from. Can we sincerely say the National Assembly motions are being opinions are being respected by the executive? I can give you plethorias of opinion of National Assembly resolutions that are in the dustbin.
I want to quickly ask you, would you say that we have missed a chance? A lot of people felt that 2014, you know, the debate around the structuring was on a very high level. Even the National Assembly, you know, was seeking to take its authority, insisting that it was the only body that could actually amend the Constitution and things of the sort. There was also a constitutional conference in 2014. Would you say that we missed a chance in 2014 to do right by the country and the Constitution?
To some extent, and it comes down to the motive. A lot of people look at what the society genuinely desire and profited from it politically. So it means that those who were in the forefront of those agitations were not genuinely committed to it. But it was a marketing tool to get to power, and it worked. One moment.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
I was just going to ask you whether you're seeing the commitment now, the genuine commitment as we go into another session.
From the
National Assembly?
From the National Assembly to some extent, yes. But the National Assembly alone, we are not there yet. When National Assembly can make law, you can't get the tutor to override the presidency. We are divided along where you come from. And as it is, there are certain parameters that cannot make it work, even in the allocation of constituencies, the way it is in this country. There are certain that can never happen.
Well, I know this is certainly an ongoing conversation. The constitutional amendment is going to be on for a while. It's usually a very long, tedious process. And so the conversation will continue. But we have to thank you for sharing your very honest thoughts with us this morning. Honorable Tajuddin Yusuf is a former chairman, House Committee on the Capital Market and a member of the People's Democratic Party. Sunrise Daily continues in a moment. Please stay with us.